Bismillah. Maybe you're able to come closer. Is that too far? Or we will start because Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم ربنا لك الحمد والشكر كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك اللهم إنا نعوذ بك منك لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار آمين. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair for turning up. I know it's difficult to turn up on a Saturday. So inshallah ta'ala, more people will be turning up. But just to be punctual, we should start. And it's important that people try to be punctual, inshallah. We are continuing the discussion on the purification of the heart. And we have covered quite a bit so far. And today I want to talk about the disease of the heart of being ungrateful. Ungratefulness, not only towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also ungrateful. Sometimes we can be very ungrateful towards people generally, Muslims or non-Muslims. And the opposite of this disease is shukr. Shukr, loosely translated into English as gratefulness, or to be thankful. And what I want to talk about, inshallah ta'ala, is the different types of shukr, the grades of shukr, the grades of gratefulness. One is, of course, the broad category of shukr towards Allah ta'ala, which is the most important. How do we become grateful to Allah? And what are the levels of gratefulness when we speak about being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But then also importantly, gratefulness towards nas. Nas is people. So not only Muslims, but also being grateful towards anyone who does us any favor. And what are the different types of gratefulness? This gratefulness is a very important concept that revives the heart, and its opposite kills the heart. The opposite of shukr in the Quranic language is kufran al-ni'mah. Kufran is, there is different types of kufr. The word kufr, as Muslims, as we understand, kufr simply is translated as disbelief. But in its broader sense, it's more than just disbelief. In its highest form, kufr is to disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which in itself is an indication of being ungrateful. When Allah ta'ala has created the human, and Allah ta'ala gave him or her everything they have, and now you still neglect Allah, you disbelieve in Allah, that is a very high form of ungratefulness. Right? It's like being ungrateful towards one's parents, for instance. They gave birth, the mother gave birth to you, she looks after you, she cares for you. And then you turn around and say, I don't even know you. Can you see that is a type of ungratefulness? So kufr can mean to cover a bounty that Allah has given. And that's why in the Arabic language, kufr is used to describe the farmers actually who bury the seed under the soil. Kufr is to cover. And that's why, in fact, the word cover in English, cover, comes from the word kafar. Right? Cover is to cover. And kafar is to cover. And both means to cover something. But in the case of one's relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, when you disbelieve in Allah, you are covering the favors that Allah has given you and completely ignoring it or neglecting it. So that is the highest form of kufr, in the form of disbelief. But then there is a lower form of kufr, and this is kufran al-ni'mah. and that is to be ungrateful towards bounties or towards people who do favors to us. Again, it's covering up favors and pretending that they did not happen. Are you with me? So the opposite of all of that is shukr, to be grateful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautifully in Surah Al-Baqarah, He says, وَاشْكُرُوا لِلَّهِ إِن كُنْتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. And be grateful to Allah if you worship Allah. And you can see here the relationship between gratefulness and worship of Allah. For if you're ungrateful to Allah, it's very difficult to worship Allah Ta'ala. And that's why it's like if somebody does you favors and you're ungrateful to them, then it's very difficult to actually be good to them. Right? And that's why importantly we will see later, people who cannot be grateful to other people actually can never become truly grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is very interesting. I'll repeat that. People who are ungrateful to other people can never be truly grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do you think that is the case? Because the gratefulness we show towards people is for favors that we often see. Tangible, they call them tangible favors, right? Somebody gives you money, a smile, they are good towards you, they look after you, they help you in something. So these are all tangible favors for which automatically you should be grateful for. But if we're ungrateful to people for the favors they do unto us, then how can we ever become truly grateful to Allah Ta'ala, whose favors and bounties are often non-tangible? You don't see Allah's favors often. You don't feel them sometimes. Most of the time you do, but sometimes you don't. For example, we are surrounded by angels. And these angels protect us from many difficulties and tribulations. Or Allah's favor upon us where maybe there is a storm or there is a fire and we are saved from it. We don't see it necessarily, we may not recognize it immediately. So the ulama say, if you are ungrateful, if you cannot be grateful towards people who do you favors that are tangible, then you will never be able to be truly grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we want to talk about both, right? And that's why فَلَا يَعْبُدُهُ حَقَّ عِبَادَتِهِ إِلَّا الشَّاكِرُونَ. The scholars, they say, none will truly worship Allah. You will never truly worship Allah until you are truly grateful. When you recognize the bounties that Allah has given you, then you're grateful. And when you're grateful, you can only respond by bowing and prostrating, by submitting. And that's why elsewhere in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. And this is the kufr, where kufr comes in. And be grateful unto me and do not be kafir. And again, in this case, the word kafir means the opposite of shakir. Meaning, be grateful unto me and do not be ungrateful. Meaning, do not deny the bounties I have bestowed upon you, whether you see them or you don't see them. Take, for example, how many of us thank Allah Ta'ala for the fact that our hearts are pumping? We don't. We take it for granted. But the fact is, if Allah Ta'ala commands the heart to stop, it will stop. How many of us thank Allah Ta'ala for the eyesight that we have? Or the hearing that we have? So these are ni'am, these are bounties for which we can be ungrateful if we don't pay attention. وَيَقُولُ جَلَّ وَعَلَا وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. And Allah decreed that if you are grateful, I will give you more. It's a beautiful formula. And Allah has taken it upon Himself that if you are grateful, I will give you more. And this is a relationship that you don't expect from humans. If you're grateful, In fact, sometimes, sadly, some people take advantage of your gratefulness and become quite horrible because they take advantage of your kindness, right? And instead of being grateful for the favors that you do unto people and maybe giving you more kindness because of your gratefulness, sometimes the opposite happens. Not with Allah Azza wa Jal. The more you are grateful to Allah, the more He gives you. Now, He gives you, it doesn't necessarily mean He's going to give it to you immediately. Nor does it mean He is necessarily going to give it to you in this dunya. Because He can give it to you in the hereafter for your gratefulness, right? For the shukr that you have given. But also there is a sad reality which Allah Ta'ala declares in the Quran, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. And very few of my servants are truly grateful. Very few are truly grateful. And so what we want to talk about is this shukr. And the opposite of it, as we said, is kufr, which is a disease of the heart, a sickness of the heart. قال العلماء الشكر أمر مستقر في سلوك المتعبدين ونهج راسخ في نفوس الصالحين تمتلئ به قلوبهم وتلهج به ألسنتهم ويظهر على جوارحهم. هذا تعريف الشكر. So in defining true shukr, or the comprehensive meaning of shukr or gratefulness, they said it is أمر مستقر في سلوك العابدين المتعبدين. Shukr becomes second nature, so to speak, in the lives of true worshippers. You don't need to be prompted to be grateful. It becomes your nature to be grateful. But that it requires a lot of mujahada, a lot of training. You know, human beings, physically speaking, we are all, when we are born, we're not born to be athletes, to run fast races and to swim like, you know, a fish. We're not born like that. We have the potential to be like that. But we're not born fast. We're not born, you know, to be able to run fast and swim fast. But we have the potential to become so if and only if you train yourself hard through a process known as mujahada, struggling and striving, which means a complete discipline that requires punctuality and requires a good diet and requires being trained under a master or a teacher to become an athlete or an Olympiad, so that you can win the gold medal by a fraction of the second against your opponent. Equally, none of us are born to be truly grateful. None of us are born to be truly patient, but we have the potential to become so if we train ourselves spiritually, just like one trains themselves physically, to become truly grateful. And that's why we have often been mistaken by assuming that simply by just making quick dua or being patient in one occasion or two occasions that I'm going to be a, mashallah, a saint, patient person. No. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, for example, man tasabbara, sabbarahu Allah. Whoever exercises patience, whoever trains themselves to be patient, then Allah will bestow upon them the quality of patience. Just like the person, whoever trains hard to become a fast runner, then eventually they might become fast runners. And whosoever exercises patience through mujahada, through self-struggle, through reminding oneself of the importance of sabr, then eventually they become people who are patient. Equally, whoever exercises shukr, whoever trains themselves to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and people, then eventually the quality of becoming shakir or grateful becomes second nature. That's what the ulama are saying here. And then it is shukr then becomes once becomes second nature, تَمْتَلِئُ بِهِ قُلُوبُهُمْ, then your heart becomes filled with shukr, so that's one. And then your tongue becomes busy with shukr. And then that is manifested in your actions. And in doing so, the ulama said, therefore, shukr is of three types, or must manifest itself in three parts of us. One, shukr bil qalb, the heart must be grateful. And it can only be grateful if it recognizes the actual bounty. Because sometimes, for example, people can be good to us and we become heedless. We don't even recognize it, right? Because sometimes we think, well, I deserve it, right? They should have been nice to me anyway, deserve it. The heart must recognize that this is actually a bounty. And the heart then becomes grateful. And when the heart is filled with gratefulness, then the tongue will utter that gratefulness. Alhamdulillah. Thanks to Allah. As in the case, it comes in the Sahih Hadith, the Hadith that is sound. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded His angels to take the soul of the child of one of His servants, and to cause him to die. Allah commanded. So they took the life of this child. The child died. The immediate response of the father or the mother was, Alhamdulillah, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Praise be to Allah. To Allah we belong, and to Him we return. In that is quality of patience, but also gratefulness. It's a kind, the heart recognizes there is shukr in that. Because qadar, as I mentioned last time, the ulama say qadar is of four types. Qadar, or destiny, or decree. خير حلو وخير مر وشر حلو وشر مر. When it comes to qadar, which one day we'll talk a whole thing about qadar because it's a difficult topic, but for the believer, qadar is of one or two types. Qadar that is good and sweet. Allah gives you wealth, that's qadar, and it's sweet to your nafs, you like it. Allah gives you a progeny, a child, that's qadar, and it's sweet and good. In dunya it's good for you, feel it's good, but also it's sweet to the nafs. But it can also be good for you in the akhirah, in the hereafter, and you still, the nafs likes it. Having wealth, everybody likes that. Or getting a house, people like that. Or having a promotion, you like that. So it's sweet to the nafs, that's qadar. وَخَيْرٌ مُرٌّ. And there is qadar that is also good for you, but it's bitter. It's bitter. Allah takes away that wealth, or Allah takes away that child. If you're truly grateful, you will recognize that even that is from Allah and there is goodness in it, even though if I don't recognize it now. So it is